Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Hospitality Marketing show number 456. I am your host, Lauren Gray. Thank you so much, and greetings from the Netherlands. Um, I, I get the same happy background behind me, the contrasting solid colors. Again, to not have any distractions behind me, I got asked in an email, Lauren Gray, that you're in the Netherlands, so forth. How about some pictures or a nicer background? I was like, well, then it'd be a travel show, and then we had to change the whole format and everything. No, it's a little bit rainy outside right now, and not really a good background if we were to do that. Thank you all so very much for following us live on our Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube channels and pages. We're all over the place with a lot of great affiliates. I say affiliates. There's no money involved. Associates and collaborators and people that have been willing to take our show and put it on their pages, on their Facebook or their YouTube channels. LinkedIn is still just one, which is me, my profile page, because LinkedIn only allows the one broadcasting. X is out there, and we're on several of X's now. Other companies and associations are broadcasting our show. And of course, always on our TV station, which is the Hospitality Channel. You can get it on your Roku TV, Amazon TV, Apple TV, Google TV, LG, Samsung, whatever smart TV. Just look for Hospitality Channel, add it. The show's always on the live side, the free side. The pay gateway gives us more content on the other side. So think of it as like Netflix. It's all hospitality industry based. It's not a travel channel. It is about our industry and how to improve how we do what we do for our industry. The TV channel is much more broad spectrum than just marketing. It's everything in relationship to operations and sales and revenue management and personnel and creative services and so forth. It's really neat. And also there's a service profile and software profile and product profiles that are in there, so you can see other products and so forth. It's like a baby conference in the sense of the display of the content that's there. And of course, if you are a hospitality marketing professional, you can join us on our Hospitality Marketing Club. Just simply go to hospitalitymarketing.club, put your email in, send your quiz, pass the quiz, show that you're active and engaged marketing professional for hospitality, and you're in our peer group, which is a lot of fun. And where a lot of the inspiration of our conversations today of the show come in, today being no exception. So as always, the show reflects a little bit of the real-time things that are going on every week for us and for people that I work with and so forth. So the topic today is really about fixing what seems to be sometimes a problem where just the one peg doesn't go in the hole the way it was supposed to. All the other ones are doing fine, but this one doesn't seem to fit. And that is how applying the same success strategies are not always successful. I'll give a story to this. When I was general manager of hotels, and I would love, as I've mentioned many times on the show, love to bring on people that have not worked in the hospitality industry, hotel industry, because they had a very clear perspective from the guest side of things, how we're doing, they weren't biased and tainted as to knowing how the systems work so much to have reasons as to why things weren't working well. They just looked at it out of the innocence of how a guest would see it. And why is this not working when it's supposed to be working, whatever. And when I told them at the front desk, and I remember the progression, it was always fun and exciting to see them where they were presented with a guest situation that they had not been presented with before, a problem, an issue, whatever. And they figured out a solution for it. And they're very happy for it. Problem, not knowing what to do, figuring out what to do, solved it, guest was happy, they felt very empowered from that. I would then tell them, don't use that solution again right away. It's not to say never to use it. Just don't make it the next thing you go to when the same problem were to present itself again. And they would be like, why? And I said, well, because in the old adage, if all you have in your toolkit is a hammer, then pretty much everything looks like a nail. You need a diversification of solutions for the same problem so that if a solution that you think should work doesn't, you have an alternative choice that you have known that has also worked in a similar circumstance. That progression, the expansion of solutions is what the real value of our discussion today is. We're faced with unique combinations of things. We've talked about the changing landscape of software, AI's usage and enhanced tools and creative deficiencies. And of course, companies are always looking to scale down their costs and increase their profits. It's the nature of the business, right? And agencies are no exception. I've often made comments that agencies take your account and give it to the least cost denominator of their organization. If they can standardize what they have sold you, like this is the things we do for you, checkbox 1, checkbox 2, checkbox 3, so forth, and you buy it, thinking that those solutions are what's going to be provided, the agency internally is looking to economize how that gets facilitated. As I've often told you, that when you're presented from an agency, there are 8 teams in your room with you. They're the ones that are the real people that are there to influence you and to impress you with their creativeness, their intuitiveness, their insights, and so forth. And I've always said that if you really want to see, have them raise their hand if the people are directly going to work on your account, not subordinate down, not hand it off, but be the fingers on the keyboard for your account. If they're honest, you won't really see many hands up, or it's a small enough group that they are literally the doers, which is a magical combination, by the way. When you actually have the doers in the room and they're the ones that you're excited about and they're the ones that are doing the work for you, that's a wonderful combination because the communication is one-to-one. It's not diluted into layers. Anyways, what I mean by doing this exercise with a presentation from a vendor is it shows you that they're going to take your project and put it into their system, okay? And they deal with the same processes of least cost denominator. How can I standardize what I've told the client I'm going to do for them by giving it to a lower paying or lower cost team member? If I can take this chunk of work that is consumable time and take it from my more expensive producer, my better team member, my more skilled team member, I would say better, but more skilled team member, and give it to a team member that can do the work, okay, basic work, and it's cost me less for them to do that in the sense of time consumption, then let me do that. That's what they do with this. They take it and they move it into their system to standardize the service profiles. What happens in this process is you get a reduction in the insights, you get a reduction into the creativity, you get a reduction into the adaptability, because these people are on that learning curve, as we all are, but they're farther in the baseline of it, of learning how, when something happens, what to do about it. They haven't had enough experience yet. They're new to the world of doing what they're doing for this. And a lot of times these people are not hospitality based. They're marketing or technology skill based. They know how to make paid campaigns, and how to make social ad campaigns and so forth. And they're adapting their skills that they know how to do to the needs of what's being asked of them for hospitality. So they're not really hospitality people. And we know that's pretty profound in most of the industry, is there is a lack of hospitality familiar or experienced people in the medium of providing marketing services or vendor services to the hospitality industry. There's a gap point. They're very good at what they do in the sense of technical knowledge, but they're not actually as fully fluent on hospitality industry, which is why I wrote the book, Hospitality for the Non-Hospitality Marketers. It was literally a book to explain how the hospitality industry works for non-hospitality people. Anywho, so you have this least cost denominator that goes on. When that happens, you lose the diversity of solving things and so forth. And it also comes out that the same method that you use for project A gets used for project B and project C and project D. Well, going back to my first statement, there's project Z that doesn't fit. It's not doing what it's supposed to do according to what we have done historically. We go in, we create these ad accounts, we do brand and non-brand, we do these many ad campaigns, segmentations, group sets, we do these types of keyword research, we do this kind of configuration, we turn it on, and it's successful. Lo and behold, it isn't here. What do? Then comes the stumping, because now, and this is in real world circumstances, the project's evaluated as to its critical mass. How big of a problem is this? Is this our major client, moderate client? Is it a part of a portfolio for a client? Where are we in the spectrum of how much relevancy of impact to our industry, our business as an agency, is this problematic program, this project that we can't seem to be producing at a level that we wanted to produce at, or we told the client we're going to produce at, and we're not producing at. Sometimes it's just a painful reality, and the client is not as knowledgeable as to whether or not it's as successful as they want or so forth. They feel that they too checked a box and said, I got somebody doing my online marketing, click, and they leave it alone, and they're more worried about all the other stuff that they're more directly engaged with. And not until it rears its head up that, gee, I'm light on money. What's going on? My top line cash flow is not as high as I expected it to. How is these things produced? And they go look at their vendor that's handling their online marketing, and they've been accepting the reports, and they haven't been talking to the vendor. And they go and ask the vendor what's going on. The vendor's like, well, everything's running. We didn't know there was a problem. And they blame the client for not having to ask them why they're not producing as much as they said they were going to produce. I've been witness to that many times, sadly, where it's like the vendor tries to be like, hey, I sent you the reports. If it was a problem, you should have told me X months ago when the report was showing you that it wasn't producing the levels. We thought everything was fine because you weren't getting back to us. Literally, I have heard what people would say that. And I'm like, really? You're going to blame the client? Wow. The second is, if it is of concern and it's growing concern, you have a client that's really just, come on, guys, what's going on here? You said you were good. You're good at this. You do this over this. You're not producing. I'm giving you this money, but I'm not getting my return on it. Or, I expected these channels to be producing this kind of revenue or volume business or whatever the KPI was, and it's just not there. And a lot of times, the problem is because they applied the same methodology to every project when every project's not the same in the solution process. And by the way, this is usually, these scenarios and circumstances usually where I get called in. I love being the opaque fixer. It's like the agency doesn't want to say they can't do it, but they can't do it. They need an alternative way of doing it. And they don't want to admit to the client. So a lot of times I get reached out to going, hey, Lauren, can you crack this nut for us? I feel like SEAL Team 6 or Mission Impossible. And solve it for them in their systems and so forth, so that they can continue their relationship with their client. It's fun. It's fun. And it goes to full scale, large companies, huge companies it's fun to know what the things that we know. Anyways, so usually the most eminent way of fixing this problem is to stop doing the same thing. Now, we all know the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting some different result. I think there's another definition for insanity: doing the same thing over and over and expecting the same result. That's the plug and play stuff that agencies tend to do. Or even, for that matter, just to be fair, clients to apply it to themselves. They think if they keep doing the same thing, new acquisition, new hotel, we do the same methodology, we do the same due diligence, we do the same things. We're good. This is why we're so good at what we do, is that we're so successful in all the things we've done that anything we touch is going to be successful because we've been successful so far, until they get to that one that doesn't work the same. Not everything's a nail, and so your hammer doesn't work. So the first thing to approach projects like this is to approach it from the perspective of what is different about it. Now, for the people that are engaged with the resort or the hotel or whatever, they don't see anything different. They know the people that are coming in. They see them in their seasonalities. They know what product they have in comparison to the products that are available to their market. They're very familiar with it, which is very helpful to a point. They're helpful in giving you the insight of what it is that they know, but you have to take that as a portion to the mixology of what you know added to it. Because from their perspective, they don't know what you know, and that is how to reach other people, how to reach the people that they think that they want, how to reach the people that have yet to discover what they are, how to go over and communicate in a way at the time that it's needed to develop the interest to convert them to coming to the hotel and resort for what they are. That uniqueness is what you're looking for in your analysis of what's being done. Because a lot of times, as I said, the standardization of, okay, we set up branded, non-branded campaigns, we do drive marketing, we do keyword searches for people looking for what they are, where they are, and so forth. Basic branded, generic, vanilla, cardboard, that color wall stuff. And it just doesn't produce as much, doesn't produce well. It's not a great recipe for anybody, but it's more particularly a bad recipe for somebody that has something that is different than what other people have, or is in a place that's harder for people to know about. To which end, I'll give an example. And I've had this example in the show before, so apologize for those that remember my stories. I was doing a presentation in Vancouver, Canada, for an ownership group that I was working with, and the hotels and so forth are all over Canada. And at the very end, I had a dude, and if you're old enough to remember Grizzly Adams, he looked like Grizzly Adams. comes up to me, big dude, burly beard, so forth. And he's like, Lauren, that was a great presentation about e-commerce. This goes back a few years, by the way. He says, that's wonderful. But I have a couple of hotels away up by Yellowknife. And half the year, I don't have enough rooms. It's during the oiling season, shale and whatever it is that they do. And there's so many people up there that whatever my price of the room rate is, they'll pay it. As a matter of fact, if I could put a tent in the back, they rent that too. He says, my problem is the other 6 months. Everybody's gone. It's freezing over, hard to get to. No reason to be up there. It's cold and miserable, whatever. And I can shoot a can down the hall and not hit a dang thing. He says, so I appreciate your e-commerce discussion, but there's nothing really, I know my business. Half the year I'm overwhelmed and half the year I'm dead empty. I said, well, I appreciate the candor and I appreciate the compliment. Have a great day. He says, hey, if you ever want to go over and shoot a 16-point buck or pick up a 25-pound bass, come on up and see me sometime. I paused and he says, wait a minute. That 16 buck thing and that 25-pound bass thing, is that available during the 6 months that you're dead empty? He's like, yeah. He says about 3 to 4 months of that, you probably could still, do pretty well. Not until it hard freezes up here, and there's not really any reason to be up here at all, except for it's darn cold. So yeah, probably 3 or 4 months out of it. Turns out, affluent Japanese business owners love remote location hunting. Just telling you. Found that out through taking time to look for what people were searching for and what they were interested in and so forth. Because to get to them at these times, you had to do planes, trains, automobiles, seaplanes, big wheel carriers. It was no easy feat to get to this place. But that was its alluring factor, it was that kind of place. And that's what they wanted. They wanted to have that experience of what that meant. So when I approach hotels, another example, there was a hotel that we had that was in Florida. And it was it was an older hotel in the sense that it was a grand hotel, a great conference space, beautiful conference spaces, large spaces and so forth. Really nice. And it's old school built. And what I mean by that is, and people in the industry long enough to remember, hotels used to be built with a large back of the house, meaning that a lot of what went on to make the hotel run so well was not seen by the guest. It was all back of the house, back hallways, back accesses, back storages, back everything. It was like Disney World. People just pop out magically from different locations and things were being done. So it was one of those hotels that was really built nice like that. Beautiful lobby, the grandiose days where it was tall and opulent and so forth. Really nice. Anyways, it had seen better days, and it was built at a time when there was a lot of business around it. It wasn't near the beaches or anything. It was near the highway, the interstate, but it was near a lot of commerce parks. Well, those commerce parks changed in their demographics. And a lot of the offices were no longer being used as offices. They're being used for manufacturing, which was reducing the number of people in there. Anyway, the audience that the hotel was built for, to cater to the businesses around them, have the grand conference rooms and the meeting rooms and the corporate parties and so forth, is faded away. And they didn't have that anymore. And they already de-escalated their flag. They went from a full flag branded to a moderate limited service flag for that same brand as a cost-saving message, because there's margins of cost related to the brand flag that you're flying. So it's like you go into the hotel and you're like, well, this is a huge hotel for being a limited service property. Anyways, they were still having issues. And it turns out that, we couldn't advertise it as being a beach hotel or close enough to a beach hotel, because there was other hotels that were better than them that were by the beach. And even though you're at a lower cost, the distance and the issues and the fact that, the cost of advertising you for those things, Google penalized you because you weren't that kind of hotel. And then you're trying to advertise local businesses while there's other newer hotels that were closer to and more engaged with the businesses that were nearby them, kind of the same way that this first hotel was built for. And so they weren't willing to extend past that and go to another hotel that may have been just cheaper. It's not that it was better, it was just more affordable. So we're sitting there scratching our heads like, well, okay, we can't go back to the origin story as to why the hotel was built, because that reason has changed. So what can we do with this? So we started looking, and we started trying to figure out who was staying there for the times that we hadn't figured out yet, and who was driving in and so forth. And we saw that a lot of people were staying en route to Miami. It was just on the fringe of Miami. And we started polling these people, asking them questions. Do you debriefing on the way out? Like, oh, you know, we know it's only an hour away or 45 minutes away from Miami. We're staying there tomorrow, or today. We're checking it today. But it was a long drive from XYZ where we came from. And rather than try to push and try to get into our place, which was more expensive per night, and all we were doing is arriving late that night, and so we're paying for a day we're not getting, we thought we'd pause here, stay. It was affordable. It's nice. You have great breakfast restaurants, so forth and so on. And then we finished we get up the next morning after we're done with breakfast, pack everything back up, and head to our spot. And we got a full day. We didn't have to pay the higher rate and so forth, and where we're at. Between A and C, we were the B. Interesting. How big of a radius is that arc? And we began seeing in our portfolio that there was a lot of places that were in that B arc, that we nicknamed it, where those were where the people were coming from on transient to and from. And then we inverted it, like, okay, they're leaving from Miami and they're getting elsewhere. They want to get out of the city, which in itself sometimes is a fun struggle, and it really can bleed a lot of time in your first day of travel. So we started accommodating the marketing in Miami, saying, hey, get out of the hubbub on your way to XYZ, the places we knew people were going to. Make it an easier ride for you. It's comfortable, it's cheap, it's got a great breakfast, we'll get you started, easy to get on the highway, and off you go. Turns out that was the magic sauce we were looking for. We knew where people were coming from on their way to, and we knew where they were coming to on their way from. And it solved a lot of the problem. And then we began approaching the group sales as to, we have this conference space, it's quality conference space. It is juxtapositioned by the highways. We're able to outcompete other hotels that could charge higher monies because they were by the beach or whatever. But in conferences, you don't get to appreciate it that much. So really, it was about functionality, that if you're in the area, because then we did the pleasure program, business and pleasure, come for the conference and then stay to enjoy. Yeah, we stay for the conference with us, and we knew you were going to go to the beach for pleasure afterwards. That's okay. We got you for the conference. These kind of pieces of the puzzle being put together was a solution modality for a hotel that lost its original purpose. The Yellowknife example was a hotel that hadn't expanded to its true value outside of what was being built and originally utilized for. These kind of unique approaches do not exist in standardization of what agencies do in general. They come in, yes, we can start your campaign programs, we'll turn you on this channel, we'll turn you on that channel, we need to drop this pixel in, and we need to do that thing for your GA4 so we can track, and we need this program, these codes put in so that we can start these campaigns and start showing you how great we are at setting up generic stuff. That's really what most of them do, large or small. Matter of fact, the larger ones just put a little bit more lipstick on it. They kind of talk more about what it means to you rather than just facilitating. Smaller ones do the same work that the larger ones do, in the same as standardization. They'll make a branded paid campaign, a non-branded campaign. The ones you have to look at is the non-branded components, because a lot of times they do generic stuff: destination, location, proximity, generalized points of interest, holiday stuff, maybe some key events, if you're lucky. The ad variations usually run from 4 to 10, maybe max ad variations, mostly text, some image ads, and depending upon the collateral that you have or what they've sold you to make, maybe some video animation. And I wouldn't give you that. Usually it's just text. And that's what you get. And then it turns on, and because you hadn't had it before, you're seeing production, you think the world's a wonderful place, you solved your problem, you move on, they pat themselves on the back, they've standardized their lower costing to doing the services for you. Everybody's happy until it isn't. That's the world of standardization. And that's the part we're kind of talking about when it comes to this, because a lot of it has to do with doing the same thing everybody else is doing at the same time they're doing it, like everyone all at once doing the same thing. It's kind of a crowd mentality. Whenever you think that you're smart, you get humbled by how not smart you are. I'd say this firsthand when it comes to things like hurricanes. We're coming up on hurricane season coming into Florida. And we thought, okay, we're locals. We know the back roads to get to where we need to get out. We don't have to do like everybody else, that the only road that the map shows is the big roads to get to evacuate and so forth. Funny part is, and the humbling aspect is, we're not the only locals, and we're not the only ones that thought of it. And more importantly, were one of many people who thought the same thing that we were thinking, that we knew something everybody else did, and they knew it too. And there was a lot of more of them that knew it, thought of it before we thought of it, and were ahead of us in that same evacuation way we thought we were going to get out. It was as much of a logjam as if we had just gone the large road like everybody else. That humbling aspect. If you don't feel like there is this commonality in group access, just be in a crowd. Crowd goes to the left. You're wondering why they're going to the left. You don't want to miss out why they're going to the left. So you're going to go to the left with them. Next thing you know, everybody else behind you sees you doing the same thing. They do the same thing, and on and on and on. That's a lot of what we see when it comes to advertising. A lot of what we see when it comes to the modality of advertising. When I look at destination marketing, when I look at what people are doing for themselves in their own market, I can literally look at their comp set, and it's the old monkey see, monkey do. They mirror themselves each so much. Just ask a revenue manager, and it just baffles me. And I love when we were outside of this modem, and finally when we got the data that we could use that others didn't, so we didn't have to watch what everybody else did in the way of reacting to them in the pricing. So many revenue managers are watching their other revenue managers in their market, and they position themselves in relationship to each other. Long forgotten the rate sensitivity to a guest as to, would a guest pay for this? It's more about, we're $5 less than them and $4 more than them. We're right in the middle where we want to be, so that, it's like the price is right. And it doesn't work that way. I mean, there's an influence to your pricing model in comparison of somebody blindly looking at what they want to purchase based on similarity of product. But when it comes to actual selections and research education, with the discovery process of it, pricing is not the primary lead conversation. It's a factor, but it's not the lead factor. So I see a lot of revenue managers looking to just react and act. Okay, they lowered the price, we're going to lower the price. Oh, they lowered the price, we're going to go ahead of them. We're going to go above by $1 just so that we can, that variance will make people think that we're better than whatever. And it is hilarious because you're literally playing a chess match with other people playing chess matches, thinking that the people that are buying your stuff is actually concerned that you are at the right price. You're not doing the right math. You're not doing the right data. So that kind of that follow mentality to it. The other aspect of it is that we are creatures of habit. If you don't think so, then why do you turn to the right when you go in a grocery store? Why are things at eye level instead of below eye level or above eye level as to their importance? The old retail mentality of that. You do what you do consistently the same as much as other people do. The ability to define difference in that commonality, putting a hotel in front of somebody that would not have considered it, is the unique capabilities of what we do for marketing. By communicating what we need to communicate to whom we need to communicate when we need to communicate and best to them. I know that sounds like the perfect triad, and it's true. From a marketing perspective, the better we can take what is what we know that we're selling to the people we know we should be selling it to at the time that they're most interested in understanding it, that mix is what creates the conversions that create success. So when you look at properties that you're struggling with, like, gee, our campaigns are running. Why aren't they running well? We've had discussions over the past couple of shows about delta variations and new data that we now have available to show that there is tendencies happening before we see the actual impact on revenue growth or reduction. We see trends that we can catch early to keep them modified so that it doesn't affect negatively our production. A lot of places don't use that, don't even know what those things are yet. They're still looking at traffic and people visitors to site, people visitors to booking engine, people converted from booking engine, which channel brought them there. Simple metrics that are helpful, but they're not intuitive, they're not insightful. And there's so much more data that's available through GA4 now that gives you the ability to look at, hey, our paid ads are producing, but compared to how they were producing before, we're seeing a negative delta. We're seeing that they're diminishing, they're getting blunted. They're still producing well. So the green arrow up and the positive revenue is wonderful. Everybody's patting themselves on the back and puffing on cigars. But we see there's a leak. What are we doing about it? We go in and look at the data. We see where the leaks are, what channels are beginning to be diluted, what campaigns are beginning to get diminished, what messages are getting blunted. And we see, is that just the natural life cycle of those ads? Like it's an event-driven or holiday-driven thing and they're just declining? If so, what are our new programs for our next initiatives? How are they ramping up? Are they keeping in sync that they're growing in their deltas, so that we'll see them supplant the negative delta that's happening with whatever is diminishing and being replaced with a positive delta that's on its curve up. If that's happening, our projection is our growth and our positive cash flow is still going to maintain in this transition period. And all of this happens under the surface of the water. So the ducks calm on the top and the little legs are just flapping away. These variations and changes, that's what marketing is, making sure that those things are known. When it comes to the uniqueness of bringing a product to market that doesn't fit the normal spend response that a lot of agencies cookie cut into their programs, you have to break down again to more basic levels whom you're talking to. Why are they interested in what you're talking about? What are you talking about? Why are you talking about it at this time? And are you putting it in front of the people that need to be put in there? With the caveat that if you only put it in front of the people that are already buying it, then it's a self-fulfilling circle that you will continue to sell only to those people. If you put it in an environment that you're constantly looking for other audiences that might be symbiotic, similar, or interested in what you have, now you're expanding your options. You're changing it to, instead of just having a hammer, you have a screwdriver and other tools in your toolbox, because you're looking at other solutions, other sources of solutions, other means of interest that can drive revenue for you. That diversification is the real key to the new marketing strategy. A friend of mine, Aaron Bennett, works with me a lot on a ton of stuff. Has changed my mind as to, I used to chase down personas first, followed by actions created by those personas. With GA4 and him showing me the data and so forth, we now invert that. We look at the actions that we're wanting and try to identify the personas related to them. But the nice part of it is by targeting the actions that they do, we're immediately able to get success by marketing to those people that create those actions we want and the audiences that we create with them. And through that audience engagement, we get a better definition of their personas. So it actually feeds itself better than the other way around, where you're guessing and hoping. Here you're knowing and then defining. It's a great inversion. So these are the aspects of looking at applying different success strategies, different modalities to being successful, not applying the same success. Like I said, I think there's a second definition for our case when it comes to the definition of Sandy, where the normal definition is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. In my case, I think the conversation about agencies applying the same solutions to every cookie cut, or, the cookie cut solution to every client that they give to, is doing the same thing over and over and expecting the same over and over thing to happen. It doesn't. And that abnormality is what sticks with them. And that creates a problem that, unless they figure out a different skill set of how to solve it, they just shrug their hands and say they can't do it, or they hire people like me to come in and make those changes for them. So be your own solution to that. I'm not trying to diminish any business that comes my way, but be your own solution when it comes to how you solve the dilemma that what you didn't work. Apply a different solution. And the first one doesn't, and the next one doesn't always work. Then try the third, try the fourth. I always said there's two types of people. You give them a problem to solve. The first type of person will tell you the 99 things they tried and failed. Okay. And the other person just got it done. And if you ask them, they'll tell you the 104 things they tried before they succeeded. If that's what you want to know, you just asked them to solve it. They did. They went through the trials and tribulations of figuring out a solution that actually worked for them. So I give you the same task to this. You can just shrug your hands and say, well, what we're doing, it doesn't work for them. Their audiences aren't defined. Their demographics aren't, it's too random. Maybe the demand in that market is no longer there from what it was originally built for. The product is not at a level of quality that can still sell it. It has to be better than what it is. You have to invest in it before you can start getting people to come to you. You got to be newer, fresher, cleaner. And, all these might have some validity in context. It doesn't solve the problem. I mean, you still have to sell it now. So to that end, adaptively looking at what you can offer and to whom you can offer it with, and then making that connection is really the task of us as marketers to do that. So I think I've hit the concept as well as I could for it. I think that We went through the standard, simplification, cost, breed, standardization, and it kind of goes back to the manufacturing and handmade thing. I talk about it in the sense that this is the real world. What's happening now is with if you have hands-on creative and people doing the work, you get the quality of a hands training person doing it compared to automation like manufacturing. Okay, that it's cookie cut, boom, 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 same process over and over and over repetitively for efficiencies. Still has errors, but it can do a lot more than the handmade product in the sense of custom marketing and so forth. But through that standardization of what you do, you create a simplification, like we talked about, at least cost denominator in the agency, standardization of process and the client side of things and so forth. So you want to take your problem children and take direct interest in what you can do for them so that you can define better what they need uniquely theirs as a solution compared to the standardized solutions that you offer elsewhere. Thank you so very much for your time today, for everyone watching us live. And for just strangely enough, I do a recast of the show here, 11:30 a.m. Sydney, Australian time for our APAC friends, and 11:30 a.m. Wednesday morning London time for our EU friends, even though I'm here now, time cycles are different. So anyway, with that, I appreciate your time. We'll have more fun conversations next week. But until next Friday, this is Lauren Gray. Thank you for the privilege of your time. And I look forward to talking to you all next week.